How's it going, everyone? It's Derek Lamoureux, and today I'm going to break down the lighting behind this commercial we did for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Let's get into it. The DP for this commercial brought me on as the gaffer, and we had a couple conversations of what he was after, and ultimately we wanted to create a natural jungle look for this hype video. We didn't want a bunch of flashing lights or tubes or anything. We wanted it to feel as close to a production jungle as we could. Let's break down how I did that. The idea is to get some hype content of the players to go up on the video board and to use on socials. You'll notice that the room that we're in is just a giant room. They use it to host events and meetings and everything. So we needed to first make that look like a jungle. And kudos to the production design team for ordering a bunch of things at Amazon and Home Depot and putting it all together and making what actually feels like a jungle. So production design was definitely step one. Now the main thing is we have a pretty wide establishing shot to show the players from head to toe, but we also need to show them in a close-up. Now our wide shots is a dolly, but we also have a Steadicam shot pushing in on them. So that meant that we had to light the entire space, and we didn't really have time for those little tweaks to go from wides to tights along the way. Once I knew that we've set our widest frame on camera, I started kind of coming up with a plan for what our lighting would look like in a jungle. I knew that I wanted some highlight pops throughout the scene to make it feel as if the sun was coming through the trees. And then I knew we needed a pretty big key and a top light to be able to set the stage for wherever the talent was going to move throughout the scene. Now, the other thing was I didn't want to overlight it because I did want to create this like dark, moodier tone, not this high key style commercial. So I wanted to make sure that there were still pockets of darkness in the scene itself. Let's start with how we build these backlights to be our sun slashes. Because I knew we were going for a really long span, I think we were almost 22 feet, we connected a ladder truss rig. So that means that we've got two pieces of pipe making a goalpost rig on either side to give us a little bit more strength. When we mounted all those 60Bs and 60Cs to the ladder truss, we used a bunch of grip arms to be able to adjust the height of those, because I knew I wanted them to come down over top of the drapery, but we didn't want to adjust the height of the drapery. So they're just sitting outside of frame and they're hung down on a 40-inch grip arm. So we connected a ladder pod on either side and then put those up on mini Mambos on each side. Now, the reason why we couldn't use the crank stand is because we needed to get high enough over top of the drapery, which was about 16 feet. So pretty high and a little bit too high for a crank stand. So a bit of a lift. In a perfect world, I would have just had all 60Cs because you get a little bit more color depth, especially in that orange, which was what we were going for. But anyways, we made do with the 60Bs and the 60Cs. Now, each one of those had a projection attachment on that. And that is the critical piece to this setup because we're able to laser focus where that cutter is hitting to different parts of our scene, whether it be on the plant or a player or just lighting up a certain part of the ground. The spotlight attachment really is the best tool for that job. We put an IntelliTech 3x5 mat on a menace arm and boom that overhead, acting as like a hair light and overhead fill to the set. So you can see when we put that up, it makes a pretty big difference. And when I looked at on and off, I liked what it was doing, but it was just too dark without a key light. So we had a key light on standby. I wanted to see, what we would get just from that hair light. Our key light was two Nanlux Dyno 650s pushed through full grid. And then we had an egg crate on that, just helping control that spill. And then you'll see at the bottom of the frame, I have two 4x4s just essentially acting as meat cutters or floppies so that we don't spill as much of that light on the ground. We more so hit that light on the player and the background instead of that foreground. I always just feel that when you do that, it feels less lit. And because we had some really wide shots, I didn't want to see that ground being overly lit. Let's take a look at the iPad and break down some of the scene itself. All right, so we can see all of our little spots up in the sky here. You can see some of them kind of creeping into the back of the frame, but all of those are lighting up different elements in the scene. So for instance, you know, this spotlight here is lighting up these plants. This one's kind of lighting up the floor, and it acts as a little bit of a backlight on our subject. This one here is lighting up these plants, and then we have one over here lighting up that spot on the tree. Now, a big thing with lighting a scene like this is you want to make it feel as three-dimensional as possible, and you want to add layers through your lighting. So being able to create foreground layers and background layers and make that depth feel like it's an endless jungle in this case, when really, you know, it's only maybe a 15-foot depth from front to back. All right, now let's take a look at our key light. So our key light is coming in from the side over here. We have our two dynos, and they're just adding that little bit of push from frame right onto our talent so that when they come up and they do their power pose right to camera, they have a nice even light on them. Our hair light again acts as that nice little push right here behind the players and their helmet, but it also helps for those walk-up shots where the players are coming up. It just helps fill in that space in the middle of the frame here so that they have a little bit more level to them. All right, so we have our hair light here, and it's menaced armed out like that, and then we have our ladder pod set up. So we have this, and then we have a couple fixtures like that.
Tell me who you know, staying 10 toes down in this thing, never quitting, boy. Put off in the 6 speed. They can't reach where we ain't got them standing on that tippy. 10 toes down, how we move. We can never lose. 10 toes, yeah. That's just how we move. Yeah, we stand up. That's just how we do. Yeah, we 10 toes. Yeah, we 10 toes. Yeah, we 10 toes.
Hopefully this video helps you in your next lighting setup. If you have questions, please drop those in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos.